Well, another year has come to pass, another year full of drama, division and genuine fear for the future, but that's not really what I want to talk about in this video. Because it was also a year full of amazing video game releases, and I'd like to take the time to mention and honor the great games of 2021. And because I'm not a supercomputer sent back from the future to review all games, and I also have not been bitten by a radioactive cartridge, I've of course not been able to play or follow every game this year. And there were some big releases I simply wasn't interested in. So if your favorite game isn't in this video, it doesn't mean it's bad or doesn't deserve to be talked about. It just means I didn't find the time to get into it, or simply didn't care enough to include it in this list of my personal favorites. So let's not waste any more time, the year is about to end, so here are my favorite games of 2021. And we start off the list with Halo Infinite. Halo's back, baby! And with more weapons, abilities and mindless walking hours in between missions than ever before. The game went through the radical metamorphosis into an open world game. I'm not sure whether this was a revolutionary idea by the developers to let us truly explore this iconic ring installation, or a more cynical one to follow the trend of contemporary first-person shooters, which Halo successfully avoided in the past, mostly. The open world exploration and traversal is wasted potential at its best and a pace-killing chore at its worst. And the lack of variety when it comes to environments is disappointing. The combat and gunplay though is as strong and fun as ever. Enemy AI and personality are outstanding. They surround you, throw grenades or suicide charge you, use vehicles or turrets and are aggressive as hell. It's so satisfying to fight your way through hordes of aliens, improvising and picking up one different weapon after another instead of reloading. Using your newfangled grappling hook to get right in your enemy's face, hearing the elites giving orders and the grunts insulting you before running away screaming when you're coming for them. Combat in this iteration is exactly what you'd want from a Halo game, and the more linear sections are incredibly well executed. So well indeed that you might forget about the waste of an open world and the nonsensical plot. A really good Halo game with some huge flaws, but still a must if you ever enjoyed a Halo game. Resident Evil Village. The 8th mainline game featured fan favorite Ethan Winters. Yeah, I know. But they tried to compensate his lack of likability with a presentation very much akin to Resident Evil 4. And while the story really pissed me off, I enjoyed the gameplay a lot. The more open level design and treasure hunting from RE4 in combination with the first-person perspective really spoke to me. This snowy backwater village is beautifully designed and hides a lot of secrets ready for the player to discover. The game offers a lot of variety both in level design and environments, as well as in terms of gameplay. One chapter feels the most like classic Resident Evil, with a castle full of puzzles and locked doors, and an invincible enemy stalking you through parts of it. Another chapter feels more like Amnesia, where you have to hide from a monster and slowly inch your way forward. Another is just a huge set piece, and yet another is a massive industrial complex where you have to fight human-machine amalgamations in tight corridors. And the titular village itself functions as a hub between the chapters and almost feels like a Metroidvania. And well, that's what I think the game should have been in the first place. A modern Castlevania. Because none of the enemies, and especially not the story, feels like Resident Evil and doesn't fit into the greater canon. It also deliberately wasn't very scary. I still had a blast playing it and can pop it in anytime to have a great time. Another horror game that caught my attention this year was Tormented Souls. It's a mid-budget game and it shows at times, but for most of the game the developers really nailed the classic survival horror feeling. Tight and cramped corridors in highly detailed environments, grotesque enemies and only a limited amount of resources to fend them off. And of course, you need to solve a bunch of ridiculous puzzles to progress. If you like classic survival horror, give this one a try. Hitman 3. The conclusion to the World of Assassination series pulled out all the stops to give Agent 47 the send-off he deserves. Everything that has already been great about the series is back and most of the flaws have been ironed out. Levels are massive and full of side stories and opportunities to dispose of a target discreetly. Following these side stories makes the game almost too easy, but you also have a ton of options to customize your experience beyond just choosing difficulty, so I wouldn't really call it a flaw, and these huge murder playgrounds invite you to explore and experiment, so you can always come back and look for different ways to complete your mission. And while I like the intrigue of the first and second game's plot, I think the story tried to be too grand for this type of game. Hitman works best with a loose story tying the missions together, not a grand journey around the world. I'm not saying that the story is bad, but it just feels a bit out of place in a game like this. Not that I spent a lot of time thinking about it, because I had a million other things to do in these great assassination sandboxes. This is, at least for now, the pinnacle of Hitman's gameplay, and I'm excited to see where the franchise is going from here. Deltarune Chapter 2. Toby Fox surprised us this year with a kind of stealth release of Deltarune's second chapter. And he also revealed the scope of the whole project. This is going to be insane. This second chapter is not just more Deltarune and with that more Undertale, but also brings more weird and wacky and creative ideas to the table. Some people might be turned off by Toby Fox's writing and art design or humor or whatever else, and his games are an acquired taste, but if you are up for it, you'll get a lot out of it. His stories are full of charm, his writing full of wit and clever humor, and of course a lot of memes and pop culture. There's as much to discover in this chapter as it was in his previous games, about the world, about the characters, and of course in terms of little mechanics and alternate ways to play and solve certain challenges. And for now the game is completely free. Later chapters will be sold, which is only fair, but if you're not sure whether this is a game for you, you can just try it out, risk-free. Doom 3 VR. This game was made to be played in VR. The black sheep of the Doom franchise, and still a game I adore. At least until it spams you with spider enemies, which is 1,000 times worse in VR. You explore the dark and claustrophobic corridors like never before, with enemies right up in your face and secrets even more satisfying to discover. The motion-controlled aiming works incredibly well, especially with the PlayStation aim controller, which is very comfortable to hold and gives you as much control as a regular gamepad and even more. The whole experience has never been this immersive, and they did an incredible job porting this game to VR, and it really showed how smooth VR gameplay can be and what else is possible in virtual reality. I haven't had the chance yet to play Resident Evil 4 VR, but after having played Doom 3 VR, I can't wait to get my hands on that one as well. Marvel's Guardeners of the Galaxy. Okay, another soulless game riding on the coattails of the MCU. Absolutely not. The game is awesome. You assume the role of Star-Lord and lead the Guardians into missions on diverse and creatively designed worlds and have them use their iconic fighting styles against all kinds of monsters and enemy combatants. And throughout it all you can listen to millions of recorded lines of banter between the characters. While the game itself isn't groundbreaking, it is competently made. It's kind of a spectacle fighter with an emphasis on ranged combat in mostly linear levels. The writing is what makes it special. The whole dysfunctional family concept that the Guardians have going can quickly devolve into annoying goofiness or just come off as mean-spirited. The game manages to keep it in balance, show the tension between the wacky characters and still show that they do care for and respect each other, sometimes. And when you're not listening to the Guardians' banter, you listen to an awesome soundtrack comprised both of original and licensed tracks that punctuates the more epic moments perfectly. A surprise hit for me this year, and I'm glad I gave it a try. Bowser's Fury. Before Nintendo unceremoniously killed off the Super Mario Anniversary Edition, they ported Mario 3D World to the Switch, one of the best mainline Mario games to have come out in the last few years. I'm not putting that port on the list though. but the game included in it. Bowser's Fury is a new Mario adventure, albeit a short one, and it is just incredible. This game kinda merges the obstacle course gameplay of classic Mario and Mario 3D World with the collectathon gameplay of 64, Sunshine and Odyssey. The whole game takes place in this huge lake covered in some black goo that you have to clean up by collecting some knickknacks to open up more levels. Not just the entries to the levels. The levels are physically on that lake. You can run up to them and play them and even just jump out of them halfway through and tackle a different one. An awesome concept that I hope Nintendo is willing to experiment with a bit more. Also, every once in a while Bowser appears and turns the whole game world into a boss arena, and you can either try to hide from him or evade his attacks, or you can fight him. But even if you beat him, he will return soon after and again until you're powerful enough to beat him for good. A really great and fresh approach to the Mario formula that I really want to see more from. And before we take on the last 3 games, let's take a moment and look at some honorable mentions. Same as the last few years, this year got its fair share of remakes and ports of classic games and underappreciated gems. And with some of these re-releases, younger players get their first chance to play these games. Shadow Man got a second chance, which really surprised me. I remember this game from the N64, where the game confused me and weirded me out, and now a younger generation has the chance to get confused and weirded out by it. Both Legend of Mana and Saga Frontier brought back entries of classic JRPG series from the PlayStation era. And while those ports didn't improve much in ways of modern design principles, they give people another chance to play these games. Same with Zombies Ate My Neighbors, a cult classic cooperative zombie action shooter. Just grab a friend and shoot zombies and other monsters with all kinds of household appliances and of course, save the cheerleaders. The original Mass Effect trilogy got a graphic overhaul and is now playable on the most recent systems with the best possible frame rate and the highest possible resolution. And Skyward Sword is now playable on a system that more than 5 people own. And now you can even substitute the motion controls the game was built around for a weird button control scheme. Stubbs the Zombie got released out of trademark hell, which gets my hopes up for games like No One Lives Forever, and Western audiences got the chance to play as an angsty teenager in Nier Replicant instead of a caring but really ugly dad. And hopefully, after the success of Nier Automata, more people give the first game of this sub-series a try. Can we get Drakengard remakes next, please? But not only remakes were high in course this year, big budget games also set foot into a genre that has been dominated by indies. I'm talking about roguelike or roguelite games, and while Deathloop and Returnal might not completely fit the definition, well, Returnal more than Deathloop, they still contain some of the more important mechanics and design philosophies. And it's great to see this style of game in a big budget production and presented to a bigger audience. Then we had some expansions for existing games. Ghost of Tsushima's Iki Island DLC had Jin travel to another island to fight a Mongol witch who poisoned the locals and drove them mad. The DLC expands on everything that's already in the main game. We have another beautiful game world, some new enemy types, more cosmetic item and a few smaller gameplay tweaks. We get to learn more about Jin's past and spend hours exploring this new island. FF7 Intermission gave us a kind of side story to the FF7 remake's first part. We assume the role of Yuffie and have to work with another resistance branch to bring down Shinra. A cute little story with some fun new side activities that might be quite lore-breaking and way more enjoyable combat thanks to Yuffie's moveset. Nintendo released some games fans have been asking for years, like a new Pokémon Snap that would have been a perfect fit for the dual screen setup of the Wii U, but is still very welcome on the Switch. And a new Metroid, but not Metroid Prime 4. Instead, Nintendo and Mercury Steam just developed a classic Metroid that kept the great gameplay from getting stale by including horror-like stalker sections where you have to avoid invincible robots. For fans of competitive multiplayer games, there has been Knockout City, finally a non-violent arena shooter thingy in the vein of Splatoon that is actually enjoyable. And if you want something more mature, there's Back 4 Blood, the spiritual successor to Left 4 Dead, with a bit more content and also a few more bugs. Then there was Persona 5 Strikers, a weird spin-off in a series of weird spin-offs. It's a Musou game that really shakes up the formula, with smaller and more personal battles, but a lot more variety and depth, and a surprising amount of challenge, while still staying true to the core of Persona, something the other spin-offs haven't managed to accomplish. Maybe some of the Pirate Warriors games. And the biggest honorable mention goes out to Forest of Illusion, who dumped the last working ROM version of Dinosaur Planet on the internet for all of us to appreciate. These guys are just awesome. And with that, let's get back to the actual list. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. The Ratchet and Clank series is one of the longer running non-Nintendo series out there. It received an okayish reboot a few years back and continues from there with Rift Apart. And this game is a blast. It's running and gunning and jumping action as you know it, and it once again features memorable characters in a variety of beautiful worlds. And with Rift Apart, everything became bigger and more beautiful. Cutscenes could be straight out of an animated movie, not just because how they look, but also in how they were directed and voiced. There's just so much personality in these scenes, and the actual gameplay is great as well. Levels are huge and open and come in all shades and colors. A cyberpunk-like city only illuminated by neon light. A rocky plateau you have to traverse with your newfangled rocket boots. An overgrown swamp, or a mining facility that only exists in the past or something. There's lots to do in these levels aside from your main mission, and these levels really lend themselves to thorough exploration. In combat, you use zany weapons to dispose of countless monsters or robots or pirates, and the more you use a weapon, the more powerful and wacky it gets. This game is pure fun and a visual treat, as well as a well-told story about some highly entertaining characters. Psychonauts 2. From one visually stunning game right to the next one. Psychonauts returns and it feels like it has never been gone. The game picks up right where Rhombus of Ruin ended, and that one started right after the first Psychonauts. Virtually no time has passed, both in-game as well as outside of it seems. The same spark of creativity is visible in this sequel, the same willingness to follow through with weird ideas and designs and still create a fun game. The gameplay had been refined, the graphics improved, everything is bigger. But all that was great about the original game has been left intact. There are lots of hugely diverse levels to explore in a variety of ways. Classic platforming, puzzle solving, a freaking game show. There is so much creativity on display here and it plays so incredibly well. Raz's abilities have been tweaked, and while some of his moves got nerfed a bit, it overall plays a lot better than it has in the original game. Platforming is tighter, combat more fluid, and all psychic abilities are useful during enemy encounters. The first game is held up to such high regard that it seemed impossible for a sequel to live up to it, especially with how Tim Schafer conducts himself. But they actually managed the impossible and made an awesome sequel to a cult classic that doesn't diminish its predecessor's accomplishments and stands strong on its own. And maybe this one will draw in a bigger crowd and be appreciated while it's still hot and not just after it has proven to be financially unviable. It Takes Two. A surprise hit like no other. Joseph Fares' third game and the peak of evolution when it comes to his professional history. He started off as a movie director in Sweden and had his entry in the video game market with Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons in 2013. An innovative little puzzle game where you had to control two characters simultaneously while experiencing a heartbreaking story. And while his game was well received by a small number of players who kind of accidentally stumbled upon it, it was his second game, A Way Out, that got him into the spotlight. A mostly narrative experience with small branching paths entirely designed around asymmetrical cooperative play, with a strong hook about two criminals breaking out of prison to take revenge on the man who set them up. It was a bit wonky in places and didn't really appear to be designed for the more action-heavy scenes. But it sent Ferris on the right track. A track that led to It Takes Two, a huge action puzzle platformer entirely designed around asymmetrical cooperative play, where the chosen type of gameplay is essential to the story and even enhances it. So an example of ludonarrative harmony. You play as two estranged parents who got turned into dolls and now have to fix their marriage to get their own bodies back. And for that they have to complete a number of different challenges by cooperating and utilizing each other's strengths to their fullest. Every level has a different theme and progression method. In the garage, one player wields a giant hammer while the other one gets to throw around nails. In the tree level, one can shoot sticky sap while the other one shoots explosives. In the clockwork level, one player is able to teleport while the other controls time. There are so many creatively implemented mechanics and not one overstays its welcome. The developers made the risky decision to only use a set of mechanics for a single level and then completely throw them out for the next big thing. And it paid off. Of course, it helps that the levels themselves are stunning and full of detail and funny little secrets. The game went from goofy to breathtaking, to adventurous and tense, and it always uses its incredibly well-designed mechanics to convey its themes. A great game and a groundbreaking one when it comes to co-op only games, and a game that really deserves all the praise it gets. And this concludes my list of favorites from 2021. There have been a lot of awesome games this year and I hope you had as much fun with them as I did. And if I missed a game that's really important to you, feel free to let me know in the comments. But that's it for now from Rady, and I hope to see you again on the next game. Have a happy new year and let 2022 be the greatest of years ever.